We're live.
We're live. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm I, I'm laughing. This is Amy Shine, one of my very old and dear friends.
I'm
And
old.
you're my old. You're an old friend. I know you
Oldie
like.
but goldie.
I know you 10 years, so you're considered maybe more. You're considered an
Yeah.
old. You're considered an old friend, and also one that I would say for me, I've watched you. I've watched you right in front of my own eyes, change, transform, and really take a look at your own inner landscape in regard to your relationship with you and your awareness, and go from not being able to handle what you were aware of to using your awareness to your advantage. True?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we're probably two of the folks that would not be alive only for the tools of access consciousness.
Definitely not joyful and having ease in a way, because before Access, we had different tools, but we did not have ease with our awareness.
No, I certainly didn't have ease. I was in Saudi recently, and a friend of mine, Sarah, said, Tom and Jerry, and when Jerry plugs Tom into the electrical socket and his whole body is like electrocuted, that was like me with my awareness. And then I found the access tools, and for sure things got better with bars. The real shift, change, and transformation came for me with the 3-day body class and the Xmen stuff and talk to entities. I'm going to say
Yeah.
three. Yeah, I'm gonna say those three for sure. And so what they facilitate means to render with ease, to bring back the memory of. And they allowed me to bring back the memory of me and what I would like my life to be. So the Access Xmen disabilities are abilities is a class really about every word that you think you're wrong, you're strong. And I'd love to know what it's like for you, Amy, but when I'm going through massive change or even change in bringing change to the world or bringing a big change, my wrongness seems to go to like the severity of judgment, whereby when I keep going, I get to see the massive gift. There seems to be so much judgment attached to how different I am. Like it literally will be excruciatingly wrong. And then the next day it's a strongness. And I'm like, there it is again. Like, and so this is where, for me, the Access Xmen class was about, first of all, becoming aware that I function different and judgment actually destroys me and is quite severe on my body. What's it like for you?
Can I ask you, like, how long did it take you to do an Xmen class? Like, how long?
Oh, well, Diva Days came to stay with me, I'm pretty sure, in 2013. She stayed with me in Ireland for a couple of weeks. And she was hinting the whole time that I was an X-Men. I was like, yeah, my daughter's ADD, yeah, my son is OCD, Asperger's, but not me. And so I did an intro X-Men class and then didn't touch it. And then I think it took me 6 or 7 years to do the first one. It wasn't.
Same. I did the intro with Diva. And I always remember I did that intro with Diva, and afterwards I was there, Tom Finnegan, another Xmen friend of us, and we were all, after the class, like I think Tom got sick, and I think I just had like the most intensity ever after that class. And after that, I didn't go near it for years. And actually, so talking about your awareness, right? Because I was like you, Rachel, I'm not an Xmen. Like I'm not. I remember being like, I'm not autistic. I'm not. Yeah, I'm a bit OCD sometimes, but I
A
had no
bit.
real idea. Like, yeah, a bit. I had no real idea of like how. Well, here's the thing. I wasn't educated like with the correct information. I was educated by like this realities version of autism, which is very high on the spectrum, where you're nonverbal, and all that. But like, I didn't know like the functioning autism, the functioning OCD, because I was able to like, had all those tendencies, but appeared normal. And you just spoke about a friend of ours who just started to realize she's an X-Men. I said, yeah, but she did a great job of pretending she was normal. And after a while, when you pretend you're normal, you start to believe that you're normal. You think you're
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
And I remember I was actually at a CF training, and I was sharing a room with someone, and she was going through something in the middle of the night, and I was awake for the whole night. And there was a real like just disturbing energy in the room that I couldn't sleep. And so here it is. I'm 6, 7 years into Access. I know that I'm aware. I know that it's not mine, right? I know that, but I still can't sleep. I'm still so aware of her world. I can't sleep. All the clearings I was doing, nothing was working. So basically, I just kind of was awake for the whole night, aware of her world. And the next day, I went horse riding, and Cassie Summers was there, who, and Cassie has done a lot of Xmen stuff. And I told her what happened, and she said, like, have you done the Xmen class? And I'm like, no. And I goes, but I know the Xmen tools. And she was like, she goes, yeah, but Amy, there's something that when you take these classes, it clears the implants.
It does, for sure.
And I was like, and it just sat with me, and I was like, oh shit. And it was a similar thing with Talk to the Entities. I knew all the tools, I knew all the clearings, but there was something that happened to me when I actually did choose an Xmen class. Something changed in my world where I actually got more space for me, so that I'm not at the effect of other people's worlds anymore to the same intensity that I was before. Does that make sense?
It you know what? It makes so much sense. I had a couple of days of being surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of fixed points of views. And before, I would be massively impacted by that. And I would have, like, when I talk about fixed points of views, there's no energy and space and calmness and relaxation and peace. When I'm around a lot of fixed points of views, there's only structure. And that has a massive compression, contraction on my body. And so one of the things for me, and this, I didn't even know this as an Xmen, Amy. I didn't even know that one of the requirements that I ask for, that I require, is relaxation, calmness, peace, space, you know? And so when people have a lot of fixed points of views, it will be like that I'm aware of warfare. Like it will go, and it'll be very loud in here. And then the minute that I go out to the trees, I'm in the house in the country, you know it well. The minute that I go out to the trees and I sit into that relaxation and that calmness and that space, I start to recognize that the insanity is not mine. And so about a year ago, Derek, you know, the dad of my kids, called me up, and I was living in an apartment, and the lady downstairs had like a psychotic episode. And I could sense her screams, I could sense her pain. That's one of the things for Xmen. We're such empaths that we perceive other people's bodies. And it was literally like I could sense it so energetically. But it was the first time that I was exposed to that level of a psychotic episode and not take that I'm going crazy.
That you didn't actually take it on.
I didn't take it on at all. I was just like, it was the first time where it was like, okay, so here's this person right now. They certainly haven't got tools. I can't take away people's shit. Before I'd been going down, trying to help her get a cup of tea, I'd be right in there. And so I knew that it wasn't for me to go down and knock at the door, or, you know, there was a lot involved in this. And so I sat there and I made a choice. I was like, okay, I'm going to move from this apartment, because she's living downstairs. This is going to go on for, you know, I get this may go on for a while. And so, but I was able to be there with no judgment, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad. And just the awareness of that this lady is massively aware. She's probably, as an Xmen, pulled out insanity and locked it into her body, which is one of the Xmen are massive healers. So they have this tendency to pull insanity out of people's bodies and hurt our own bodies with it, which is what we both did. And so I sat there so grateful. There was a big glass wall like this in my apartment in Maastricht, and a big tree, and I was able to sit there, and I was literally on my knees, thankful for the tools of access consciousness, that I could get my bars run, and that this insanity is outside of me. It's not in my body for sure, because I wasn't born with it. And it's certainly not in my field anymore, as in my zone of awareness, but we talk about this way more in the 2-day Xmen class. So basically someone would come in with a need, and I would be like, I would be like, Tom, like plug in that socket, and my body would be like, "Zzz." And so that's the way I was with fixed points of views. And then it would be so compressive that I would buy that the points of views were me, that electrical stress, contraction, compression, energy was me. And because I was so aware, except I wasn't aware that it wasn't my vibration. I wasn't aware that that's the energy of judgment. I wasn't aware that that's the energy of a fixed point of view, you know? And so one of the massive things that changed for me after the Xmen was I don't no longer have to fulfill other people's needs. And honestly, that's a miracle for me. It's a miracle. I'm gonna have my own miracle. I don't require it to be validated by anyone. But for me, for someone who's so aware of other people's needs energetically, for me not to default and automate into taking away their needs and fulfilling their needs, it's an app to consider me, to be able to sit back and consider me and my choices. I only really got to that level of presence with, hey, consider me in this choice after I took the Xmen classes.
Yeah, love that.
Mm.
So like so I remember being in a class with Gary, and Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and I said something to him about numbers, like how, like, he had said something to someone in class about, a deal and deliver with host. And I said, oh, that doesn't work for me. Like if I do that, that sends me the other way. And he said, that's because you're autistic. And I was like, what? And I remember like nearly falling off my chair. And he was looking at me, he's like, you don't know you're autistic? So could you talk a little bit, because I've been in many classes where people have gotten, like where Gary has said that, like, you're autistic, but like the person has no idea. Like I had no idea, like, what do you mean I'm not autistic? So could you speak to like how, because I know even in the foundation class, we talk about Xmen, we talk about a little bit, we don't talk too much about it in foundation, but you might ask someone like, hey, are you autistic? But they have all these points of views of what autism is.
Definition.
That doesn't allow them. Yeah. Could you talk about what autism actually is from the energetics of autism, not from this reality?
So let's look at it from a neurodivergent point of view. Right now, there are people being born all the time. I'm one of them, that don't have the same functionality as other people. In other words, for me, I have whole brain function. Okay. And so autism is the question that no one is willing to be. I am a future that, for me, autism is that I'm in communion with every single molecule in the universe and on the planet. And so the way my autism works is I have a whole brain function. And if someone touches the door and they're angry, I will perceive that. And so it's someone who is highly energetically aware and has massive capacities to be communion with energy. And this was something that I was never educated on. But funny enough, when my mom was alive, she worked in Ireland and kids that go to autistic schools, and they have someone who sits in the car with them to bring them to school. And my mother knew I was getting into the Xmen stuff, OCD, ADD, autism. And I said to her, I would say, how's your girl today? And she's to collect a young boy and young girl and bring him to school. And she said, isn't it so funny that when the angry taxi driver is on, the two of their systems are off the minute that we drive up? She's like, not when we get out of the car, not when they come out, the nanosecond that we arrive, they can sense the energetic difference. And so my mother started to notice that when she would play the Beatles songs, help, I need somebody, and she would say good morning, and then she would talk to them about like her grandchildren, and their whole system started to relax when I said, Mom, keep expanding out to the space of the trees. Don't, grab or, make compression, contraction energies, and don't a lot of electrical energy, just be as much space. And so autism is this energetic capacity with molecules beyond. We're only at the beginning of understanding the way this autistic capacity. So in Access, we don't believe that it's a disability, and many people might say, oh, hang on a second, my child is on the you know, on the spectrum of they're nonverbal and they're violent. And so we're not saying that that's not the case for people, but what we are saying is that there are people that are highly functional and massively impacted by the awareness. So autism is the awareness of every thought, feeling, emotion. You walk into a supermarket or you walk into a mall and you download all the thoughts, all the feelings of everyone in there. And it's like turning on, for me, 500 televisions at the one time and hearing them all go. And so it's a level of energetic communion that we haven't really even began to acknowledge. Yeah, the knowing of an autistic capacities. It's huge. It's a huge conversation. So what has tended to occur up until now is it's been made wrong. It's been a disability. People have defended against it instead of actually seeing the capacity for transformation and the capacity of the gift of autism. And so for me, the way my autism affected me was that I would be aware of people's projections and thoughts. And it was so severe, I would create myself based on that projection, that I would fit into that box. And then that's like taking all the energy in the universe and making yourself into this card, like literally fitting yourself, not this, because that these spaces really work.
Fitting
And so,
yourself into the box.
yeah.
And like wow.
And the things that everything that is, there's the access consciousness clearing statement. So all the definitions that you have of autism that puts you in rejection and defense and in the wrongness of autism instead of the gift and the capacity and the ability that it can be for you, your future, your reality, your life. There's the access consciousness clearing statement. Can we destroy and uncreate all that?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, forwards and beyonds. So for me, the time made no sense. That was one of the things that I really struggled with, time, because time is only a construct. And for someone like me, I don't work in blocks, you know? And so the things that will challenge you will be time, will be linearity, will be the things the way our form and structure. This is the way this is supposed to be, because I can't do it the way it's supposed to be. I can't fit into the way that it's supposed to be. I have my own way of creating, of generating. And one of the things for me is that everything that I come across, I'm like a Google. I have to know how everything works. I've got to find out how everything works, how everything was generated, how everything was created. And before I would make myself wrong for that, whereas now it's just the way that I am, you know? It's just the way that I am.
So Rachel, can you talk a little bit too, like, because I know for a lot of us, and I think like the new age like term I'd say in this reality for Xmen is empaths. You hear a lot of people say, like a lot of people that come to me for sessions and classes at the beginning are like, I'm really empathic. I can't be around other people. How do I be around other people? I'm really empathic. And I know that really what they mean is they're Xmen, like how can, because we, you and me both have been in lots of classes with lots of different people, and how do you be around people when you have that extreme awareness and that extreme like download of everybody else's worlds?
Well, again, through the tools, I've now learned to use my energetic awareness to my advantage. And so for me, when I'm in a room and my go-to is, Rachel, remember you have OCD. And OCD is you're massively aware from 800 miles to 8,000 miles. And what I have to keep coming home to is the awareness that I'm aware. Because when I was a child, I would know some stuff and people would say, you can't know that, or you can't do that. And I would know stuff, like my mother knew. I would know stuff that I shouldn't know, because I actually had the capacity to pick up on other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, particularly within our family system. And so one of the things is that do you actually trust that you're aware? Like even this for you, we could revisit this. I mean, I could call you every day and I could say, hey, Amy, remember you're aware. and you'd be like, oh man, I forgot,
Mm.
And so if one of my kids are upset, or if I'm upset, like they can, like I literally will answer the phone and or before it, my kids will know what is my energetic mood. You know what I mean? And so in dealing with that is, who does this belong to? Return to sender of consciousness attached. And it's not yours. And the other thing is that X-Men don't function from feelings, they function from perceiving. Now, if you come into a world where there's a lot of sadness and a lot of pain, and if you're brave enough to look at what it means to have a body in this world, what it's like for you to take a body in this world, when me and you were brave enough and courageous enough to look at that, we discovered very quickly that we didn't want to have a body in the world the way that we were told that we should live according to the template. And we started to recognize that we were capable of generating our lives in a different way based on the energy of living. Because X-Men will thrive when they're living in the energy of who they be: gratitude, consideration, kindness, caring, peace, relaxation, nature, space. And so, yeah. And so in the acknowledgement of what you're aware of, that you came into a world that functions mainly from judgment, but X-Men weren't born from judgment. So we actually came here to create a world of no separation, because there is no separation for X-Men in receiving of information. Well, you said it. So if I'm watching a movie, when someone's cutting their arm, I will sense like that's cutting my arm. And that's the level of sensate that I function from. It's not wrong, it's not right, it's not good, it's not bad. That is my ability to perceive this world. And also that level of caring for people can be turned into, X-Men are usually like, they work in social care, or doctors. I had like 7 doctors in my last Xmen class in Riyadh, because they perceive the parents' reality so dynamically, you know. And so we tend to go into these jobs that are about caring for people, because we truly would. One of the things with X-Men, if they can make your life greater and make you happier, they will. Sometimes I don't always ask a question in regard to that, if people are looking to have their life greater and have more space and more happiness. And so this is where we use our capacities, which is quite often even me and you talking and just hanging out together for a couple of minutes. X-Men communicate through the body, not through the mind, not through trained thought. We communicate through the energy of caring, nurturing, kindness, gratitude, and then building trust. We have this inner sense that we know everything is going to be okay. And massive capacities to be able to deal with insanities that other people will never be able to handle. They'll fall apart, or go fearful, or fight. An X-Men's reality is not to fight. An X-Men's reality is to be an allowance of everything.
I love that. That's a meme, Troy. An X-Men's reality is not to fight. An X-Men's reality is to be an allowance of everything, even the insanities. And I just, when you're talking, Rach, I just want to acknowledge, like, there's such a kindness and a peace and a space when you're talking to this topic of X-Men. So I'm very grateful that you're bringing this to the world. There's not that many facilitators yet of Xmen classes in the world, and I don't know where I would be only for these tools. Like for bars first, the beginning bars and the body work, and then the Xmen tools, and like you said, the entities, talking to entities too, which they all go hand in hand. Like, I don't know if you can separate them. I don't think you can. And it really shows me like that we can actually have a different world. So to actually have these tools, and have this information, I don't see this information anywhere else in the world. So I'm just really grateful that you are bringing it to the world, and you're coming to Florida. We need you in Florida.
Well, the other thing in this is that, like, I've been to hell, so have you. I mean, we genuinely have been to hell with thinking that what we're aware of is ours, because we live in a world where things that are okay to other people are totally insane to X-Men. It's like, this is absolutely insanity, and everyone is saying this is okay, and we're like, huh? And so for me, I know that I would be dead only for the X-Men tools. I I just came out of Cork City. I'm home in Ireland for 3 days in my home place. And I just came out of Cork City, and I drove up the streets that I would walk as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. And Amy, I had no idea what my reality was. I literally looked at everyone around me and was like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like her. And then I would become like him or like her, or, you know. And so the invitation to find what your reality is and then to build your reality, what the two of us have created, is isn't it mind blowing?
Yeah. And it's like also like I just want to say, like, I've taken 2 Xmen classes already, and each one was like created such a space in my world. But it's like, for me, it's not about, okay, I've done this class, like, and it's not about like everything being about a class either, but there's something about like committing to like using these tools, but also like to keep educating myself. Like, I'm never done. It's not like, okay, I'm good now. Like, I live in a crazy world, and like, I live in Florida, and I recently only started to acknowledge like the amount of anger here. And one thing Gary said in a class one time was like, the most angry place in America is New York. After that is Florida. And then I realized, well, all the New Yorkers moved to Florida. So
there you go.
And yesterday, like, I was at home, and I love this because when you say yes to a topic or a class, the class starts facilitating you before the class.
Massively.
And I was like, being me, happy, space, creating. And I went out to go to Office Depot for like 10 minutes, driving along the road, and I started to get so angry. But I stopped myself and I was like, okay, Amy, what are you aware of?
What are you aware of?
What are you aware of? And then I was like, became aware of all the people in the cars and the traffic and the people here. And I was like, oh, Florida, people are angry. Okay, not yours. And then I went on along with whatever I was doing.
Again,
yeah,
again,
and
there's no
was
separate.
still there, though. I have to acknowledge, like, even though I asked what am I aware of, it was still there. I was still aware of it. But after a while, it just dissipated. Like, I came back to me again. So there is like that. Like,
See what you just said.
I came back to me again.
So this is one of the huge capacities that we'll go into in the class. It's a massive ability, is that Xmen have this extreme capacity to be catalysts, energetic contribution. So for me, I'm quite sensitive to sadness, you know, real black sadness. And so I have a massive capacity for joy. But because my OCD went warp, I thought the sadness wasn't mine, and I'd be inside in bed crying all day. And so with you, I've known this since the day I met you. You have a massive capacity with anger, you know. And so if nobody tells you that you're aware of anger, which is a lie anyway, okay, I hate this, I hate that, instead of I have the ability to change something. With Xmen, they'll take a point of view and they'll go complete extreme with it. And then this is where the question of, hey, when I be with this and when I be interesting point of view with it, it melts. And that's the capacity of an Xmen can melt up to 10,000 people angry shouts just by the space.
Say that again. An Xmen can melt up to 10,000 people's.
It's louder. An Xmen's catalytic conversion, their ability to contribute and create something greater, is greater than 10,000 angry men shouting from the rooftops.
Wow.
Yeah, it takes very few of us to change the fabric of this reality.
Someone needs to clip that piece. That's wow, Rach.
So by you driving down that street yesterday, did you introduce a new way of being in the world?
I get yes, and it's like, it's not cognitive, it's just yes.
Yeah. And so these were things that I was never trained to look at. Like, I know now that I'm like a sprinkler of joy, and yet I would perceive sadness or perceive depression and perceive lies so dynamically. And for me, I made myself stupid and unaware to live in the lies. But as an Xmen, when you begin to be aware, all the lies that you were living from just literally fall away.
Yeah. Wow. More of that, please.
Yeah.
Oh, Rachel, this has been incredible. I love talking Xmen stuff with you. You always like open up my world. So guys, I hope you got something out of today. You know, you're welcome to come join us for the Xmen class. It is starting, it's going to be live in Florida. If you can come live to Florida, like, even better, get your body in the room. We'll be running bars. You can be present with Rachel in the room. If you can't get there live, you can also join us online. So it's going to be next Thursday and Friday, Eastern Standard Time. So it's still a good time for Europe and for some other time zones.
There's a few friends of mine in Europe coming on, so it's a lot that they haven't done an Xmen class, and they're like, okay, I've watched you, Rach, since you've taken these classes, your career has gone like boom. Because now I'm using, instead of me going around fulfilling other people's needs and getting lost in everybody else's reality, now I actually have developed a technique to sit back and choose where is it that my energy can go into generating my life, what I would like to have.
Yeah. And I think that's massive too. Even something I was looking at the other day, like whose dreams am I living? Like, are these my dreams? Am I creating the dreams I desire? Am I creating from somebody else's dreams?
Yeah, we'll go into all of that on the 2-day class.
So next Thursday and Friday, 2 days, full days. It comes with a manual. The manual itself is like incredible.
Off the chart,
yeah. And this is information that you get to take out into the world as well with you. So you're welcome to join us. And if you have any questions about Xmen, you can message Rachel, message me. Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're so welcome. It's so lovely because I haven't been over to you since you've been to Florida.
I know.
So I'll actually get to see where she lives, and yeah.
Well, you're coming to Fort Lauderdale. I live in Delray Beach, but we'll see, can we get you up to Delray? It's like 30 minutes between them, but they're different energies. So
I'm sure we get up to some trips and play.
And we're going to Nashville together to COP with Gary Douglas.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.